If you had told me 3 months ago that my biggest enemy wouldn't be inflation or my back pain or the HOA fees themselves, but an actual person named Linda with a clipboard and a vendetta, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. It all started with a garden gnome. Not even a big one. Just a standard-sized, jolly little guy I picked up from a roadside stand while visiting my sister in Vermont. I placed him in my newly mulched flower bed, right next to the lavender I'd planted myself. And I swear, the very next morning, it was like I'd desecrated Holy Land. Linda, our HOA president self-appointed, of course was on my porch, snapping photos like she was building a case for the Supreme Court. She didn't say hello. She didn't introduce herself. She just pointed at the gnome with a manicured finger and said, "Unpermitted decorative structure, subsection 3.4. Then she handed me a bright orange slip titled Community Aesthetic Violation and walked away like she'd just saved the neighborhood. At first, I laughed. I mean, it's a gnome. A cheerful, ceramic lawn guardian. But then I saw the fine $1.85. For a gnome. That's when I realized this wasn't a joke. This was Linda's version of war. She wasn't subtle about it either. Every morning at 7:15 sharp, she'd do her community inspection walk, phone in one hand, clipboard in the other, Bluetooth headset dangling off her ear like she was coordinating a SWAT team. She'd mutter into it while gesturing toward potted plants, porch furniture, and a Yesme gnome. It became clear that anything that didn't align with her personal vision of suburban harmony was an affront to be punished. A week later, I got another violation. This time for incompatible mailbox design. Apparently, my sleek modern box clashed with the colonial character of the neighborhood. Then came the non-regulation lighting fixture, fine because I had installed a solar light. Solar. Clean energy, you'd think they'd applaud that. Instead, I got another bill, $120, and a note that said, color temperature exceeds community ambient standards. That phrase haunted me. Community ambient standards. It sounded made up. And that's when I started reading the HOA bylaws. Every line, every footnote, every contradictory clause. Because if Linda was going to play this game, I was going to play smarter. Then came the breaking point. It was a Tuesday. I came home from work, exhausted, dreaming of leftovers and a couch nap. Instead, I found tire tracks. Deep, muddy, lawn-murdering tire tracks cutting across my brand-new sod. And at the end of those tracks, Linda's car, parked half on her driveway, half on my lawn. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I stormed over, and she met me with a smirk. Overflow parking during high traffic hours, she said, pointing at a laminated HOA badge on her chest like it was a shield. This is private property, I shot back. You destroyed my yard. She adjusted her sunglasses and said, if your landscaping can't handle a simple three-point turn, perhaps it wasn't properly installed. File a landscaping dispute if you feel strongly. And then she handed me a sticky note with her own phone number. That night, something in me snapped. I photographed the damage, called my landscaper, got an official quote, and mailed Linda an invoice. Itemized. With pictures. 2 days later, I found a letter duct taped to my garage. Not mailed, not placed gently duct taped. It was from the HOA disciplinary board, citing me for harassment of a board member via malicious billing. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off my porch. The next day, I walked to Linda's door, holding both the invoice and the HOA notice. She answered in a HOA-branded windbreaker, sipping iced tea like she was on a porch swing in Mayberry. Did you get my notice? She asked, like she was talking about a bake sale. I held up the invoice. Did you get my bill? She set down her glass and said, you can't invoice an HOA officer acting in official capacity. It's called qualified immunity. Linda, you're not a police officer, I said. You're a retired dental hygienist with a clipboard. She smiled and replied, and yet, I'm still the one in charge. And that's when the fines began to pour in. $75 for unauthorized wind chimes. $95 for color-clashing patio furniture, $130 for non-neutral mulch tone. That was the moment I stopped playing defense. I dug through the bylaws until I found gold. Article 9, Section 2.3.5, any board member involved in an active civil dispute must recuse themselves from disciplinary duties until resolution. My invoice? That was a dispute, which meant every fine Linda issued afterward was null and void. I documented everything. Sent certified letters. Printed out violations on cardstock so thick it could stop a bullet. Linda doubled down. Called an emergency board meeting without informing me and tried to vote for a property lien against my home. I showed up anyway, holding up her violations and my civil claim like courtroom evidence. The board members looked like they wanted to vanish. One even whispered, "She has a binder. It's color-coded." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I handed them a packet with my claim, the HOA rulebook, and an email from the HOA's insurance provider stating that rogue fines wouldn't be covered under liability. That got their attention. Linda was suspended from her role as president within 48 hours. I thought it was over. It wasn't. That's when my sprinklers died. The control module had been ripped out. Wires clipped. Lawn soaked and useless. My contractor called saying the lawn job had been canceled via email from Linda's account, still signed as president. I reported her for fraud. Marcia at the HOA office, who had a drawer full of off-brand soda and 14 Cat's Eye, and said, "You too." Apparently, 2 other neighbors had filed complaints. One had their mailbox yanked out. Another got fined at 3 a.m. with spray paint marking their trash cans. Linda had gone rogue. Then came the city inspector, claiming someone had reported illegal irrigation. Guess who? He took one look and said, "This is cleaner than my setup," then walked away. I checked my Ring camera. There she was. 11:48 p.m., hoodie and gardening gloves, flashlight in hand, prying open my irrigation box like a raccoon with a mission. I filed a police report. Sent the footage to the HOA's legal rep. The next morning, she showed up on my lawn again, this time to yell at the gnome. She tried to rip it from the ground, screaming, "This is a symbol of defiance," but it was bolted down. She tripped, fell into my petunias, and lay there screeching until the cops showed up. She was charged with vandalism and trespassing. But she wasn't done. The next week, she set up a folding table on the sidewalk with a handwritten sign, "Neighborhood Truth Station." She passed out flyers accusing me of subverting community unity. Nobody stopped. So she live-streamed. Titled it, "Fighting HOA Tyranny." 10 minutes in, she yelled at a jogger and shouted, "You're violating path decorum." That clip went viral. Local news ran it with the headline, "Clipboard Crusader Melts Down Over Lawn Art." It just got worse. Her niece, who lived 2 blocks away, messaged me anonymously. Said, "You need to see your garage." Turns out Linda had a bunker binders, files, complaint logs, even laminated screenshots of doorbell cams. One file was labeled "Fence Height Suspicion." Another just said, "Trash can anomalies." The final nail was her expense ledger. Reimbursements for windbreakers she labeled as field gear. Solar lights she claimed were security investments, and a $75 charge listed as morale snacks. I turned it over. The HOA's legal team opened an investigation. She'd been pocketing money, writing fake fines, faking signatures. She was arrested again while pacing the sidewalk in a reflective vest. As they cuffed her, she shouted, "Emergency aesthetic protocol." The judge didn't flinch. Gave her probation, full restitution to all residents, and a 5-year ban from any HOA's activity in the county. Her house? Foreclosed. Bought at auction by my old contractor, Jesse. He turned it into a boutique landscaping business called Linda's Lawn and Garden. His sign read, "Now accepting all gnomes." I didn't even have to fight anymore. The community voted to dissolve the HOA entirely. The final newsletter read, "Freedom blooms again." And me? I water my thriving lawn, wave to Jesse, and smile at the gnome. Still standing, still smiling, still unpermitted and perfectly at peace. If you made it this far, I gotta ask, was I in the right? Or did I go too far? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, I want to hear it. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. It's lawn care.